Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Festival Theatre. Gosh, it's been a long time since I've been here, and it's been a long time since I've had this uniform on. In fact, it's a bit tight, but anyway, my name's Graham. You probably recognise me from working here for a long time. Normally I do tours here, but unfortunately because of lockdown that's not been able to happen. But I thought it might be quite nice if I did a series of mini tours just to get your juices flowing for when we're allowed to go into the theatre proper. And I wanted to focus on maybe some details that a lot of people maybe never thought about for the theatre. For instance, have you ever wondered why the theatre, the outside, the foyer, is on this half-curved shape? Well, the architect, Colin Ross, he was inspired to create this half-curved shape by the interior, the 1928 interior. He described the upper circle and the dress circle as getting a big hug when you're in the theatre. And boy, we could do with some hugs at this moment, couldn't we? Of course, we're not allowed to hug, but the theatre has got these hugs that we all yearn to go back to. You'll find these hugs all through the theatre. For instance, the door handles, they're on a half curve, or the skeleton of the building, it's all on half curves, if you have a look. So the original 1928 interior, Colin described it as being like a floozy and flock wallpaper. So he chopped off the original frontage and created this wonderful glass foyer. He Chanelified it. So you can just imagine it being like a bottle of Chanel No. 5. Classy. So let's go inside and have a look at his inspiration. If you'd like to follow me. And here we are in the stalls. Originally, only one pillar held up the dress circle, but for symmetry's sake and for the sake of the leading players who never knew where centre stage was, they thought it would be a good idea to put in a false pillar. So the next time you're in, which hopefully will be soon, I want you to knock on the pillars and you'll hear one is solid and the other one is hollow. And people will probably think you're mad. While we're here, in 1896, the very first moving image in Scotland was actually in a theatre here. I mean, it must have been amazing. Can you imagine the very first moving image and you've never seen anything move on screen before? I mean, we're very used to mobile phones and television and stuff like that, but imagine if you'd never seen that at all. And let's say, for instance, in Victorian times, a train is hurtling towards you. I mean, the audience would all scream and try and run out of the theatre because they actually thought they were going to get flattened. Amazing. Now, if you look up at the boxes, on this side here, you'll see a date 1928. That's the date of this interior because we left it untouched. We just repainted it. And on the other side, you'll see the date 1994, and that's when all the alterations happened, i.e. the front was cut off and was Chanelified. And if we go down here, and here, down at the front, they chopped off just behind the proscenium arch and made it the biggest stage in Europe at that time in 1994. But subsequently, Wales Millennium Centre has now got a bigger stage, and Covent Garden, they had a refit, and theirs is bigger now. But I think we should get on stage, so follow me. So here we are on the stage. The inspiration for the curve on the glass front. Have a look around and enjoy the hugs. Hello everyone and welcome back to Graham's Mini Tours. You find me on stage at the Festival Theatre. Now today's little mini tour I want to talk about theatre terms. In theatre land we have different names for different things. For instance, behind me we have the wings, that's the wing space there. And if you look at the front there, we have the tabs, which is the front cloth. And if we look above us, we have the fly floor and the flies. Now the flies, that's what all the scenery hangs on. And if you see the ropes here, that's the ropes that pull up the scenery. Now you'll see these curtains here in the corner. These are called legs. Now these, you'll have heard of the expression to break a leg, and you must think, God, that's an unusual thing for someone to say as a good luck thing. Well, in the olden days, if you were on stage, let's say you were part of a variety act, if you broke through that leg, that means you were on stage and you got paid. Also, if the audience loved you, you would have to break this leg again to come on and bow or curtsy. And the more breaking of the legs there were, the more you were loved and adored. So that's where the expression break a leg comes from. Interesting. I've got another one. Follow me to the green room. So here we are in the green room. Now the first thing you'll notice, I know, is it's not green. Now, why is that? Now green rooms are used all over the country in the entertainment industry. In film, in television, you'll have green rooms. And basically it's just a room that you rest in before you go on stage. There's a monitor here, you can hear what's going on stage before you go in. So why is it called a green room? Well, this is my version, there's plenty of versions, but mine is correct. So in the olden days, when theatre first evolved, you would probably have a group of strolling players who would arrive into the village green, the biggest area in a town or a city that most people congregated on. And they would come on in a horse and cart probably, and if you were on the cart, you would be on stage. So for instance, here I am going, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your bananas." And I would be on the stage here. But if you weren't ready to go on stage because it wasn't your cue yet, you would be lying resting on the village green, hence a green room. Now behind me, you will see an Empire sign. There used to be a chain of Empire theatres all around the country, this being one of them. So this sign here originally sat just outside at the glass canopy that we talked about earlier. Would you like to see a dressing room? Most people like to see a dressing room. To me they're very boring, but follow me. I often get asked, has there been any divas at the theatre? Has there been anyone who've demanded that the walls got painted a particular shade of white, or they want these specific flowers everywhere? And I can honestly tell you there hasn't been. The walls are all the same for the about 20 odd years that I've worked here. People just want a functioning dressing room where they can have a shower and put their makeup on and it's clean, and there we go. So no exciting stories there, I'm afraid. I do have a story that perhaps I could tell you. Yes, I will. I'm not supposed to, but I will. My mother used to work here as a cleaner. She cleaned all the dressing rooms. And she came up to my house one day and she said, "Oh, Graham, I was at work today and I was cleaning the star dressing room," which is the one we're in. And she said she came in and there was banana skins, sweetie wrappers all over the floor. And she thought, "Oh, whoever's in here is a pig." And she said it out loud, but then she heard coughing at the back of the dressing room and she went, "Ooh." And she thought, well, no, they are. So she said, "You, all that rubbish that's on the floor, the bin's just there, pick it up and put it in the bin." And the person agreed and went, "Oh, yeah, yes, I'm very sorry," and put all the rubbish in the bin. I said, "Oh, well, who was it, Mum?" She said, "Oh, no, a singer, and it was during the Royal Variety performance. Oh, he has a hanky and he sweats a lot. Oh, what's his name? Oh yes, Pavarotti." She actually told Pavarotti that he was a pig and he agreed and put all the stuff in the bin. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Festival Theatre. It's Graham here doing my little mini tours again. You'll find me on one of the foyer bars upstairs. Now today I want to focus on the carpet. Now you probably walked over this carpet lots of times but never really thought about what it represented. Well, the theatre used to be a chain of Empire theatres. So this was an Empire theatre. Many people all know it as the Empire. So when the theatre reopened, they wanted to hark back to the past. So they used elements of that empire, in this case the Roman Empire, and if you closely look at the motifs on the carpet, you'll see there's Corinthian columns, there is a laurel wreath, there's gods and goddesses' heads. It all was inspired from the empire. The laurel wreath in particular, I can go and show you an example of where the inspiration for that laurel wreath came from. So this was the inspiration for the laurel wreath. Now this is a sample of carpet that we found when we were renovating, and you see it's got EM in the middle, which is Empire Moss. So it was a chain of Empire Moss theatres. Now when they had it, it was a most beautiful theatre here. It was a Matcham theatre. Now Matcham theatres were all around the country. In fact, if you're a Strictly Come Dancing fan, they all go to the Beach Ballroom in Blackpool. Well, that's a Matcham theatre. Now, the theatre here sadly had a big fire, but I can show you an example of what the theatre used to look like if you follow me. Now, this is our secret area behind the dress circle. But if you have a look at this photograph here, this is the Matcham Theatre. Sadly, it's in black and white, but you get the idea. Now, this is the theatre that had a terrible fire, and probably the most famous ghost story in the entire world is in this theatre. Now, some of you might have heard of the man called Lafayette, the great Lafayette. He was a lauded illusionist. Well, sadly, he died in this theatre in 1911. But I'm not going to tell you the story about that because it would take me forever. So you have to come on a tour and I'll tell you all about that. So other traces of the old Matcham Theatre can be seen up here. Now, all around the walls here are the old plans of that theatre. But when the new theatre was built and we were excavating, we found little traces of wood panelling here, so we kept and preserved them. You can see it's sort of a Chinese wood panelling here, and on the other one, wallpaper, again Chinese. Now, Chinese was very popular at the time because Gilbert and Sullivan had just opened the Mikado, so chinoiserie was the in thing. And I'm just thinking how wonderful it must have been, you know, to go into all these different rooms. I loved how ladies all got dressed up to come to the theatre. I wish people would get dressed up again. I mean, I think you enjoy something if you're all dolled up. And I think after COVID, I think that we should be celebrating getting all our old togs out and getting ourselves beautified. I mean, jeans and trainers, no. Now, over here, if you have a wee look at the plans, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see them, but you'll see in the old theatre it had a dome on the top. Well, that dome could actually slide back and let all the smoke out, because everybody smoked cigars then. Unbelievable to think about it today. And this other plan here is of the stalls. And you'll see there's a revolving stage, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of comfortable seats, and the rest are all benches. So it must have been quite uncomfortable then. Also, because of the fire that happened here in 1911 that killed Lafayette, something very important didn't happen. Follow me and I'll tell you what. The very first Royal Variety performance was going to be held at this theatre. George V had decided it was about time that the royals were seen north of the border, but because of the fire, it didn't happen. But we did eventually get the Royal Variety performance, and the Queen did appear at this theatre in 2003, which was 92 years later. So, thank you for tuning in to my little mini tours. I hope you found them interesting. And we can't wait to see all our seats full.